Between 6 and 7 o'clock on the morning of Saturday, March 12th, 1911, the 13-year-old boy Andrei, usually called by the diminutive Andreyusha, Yushinsky left his small two-room home in Slobodka, a suburb of Kiev on the left bank of the Dnieper River, ostensibly for school. His parents were at work. The younger children were still asleep. He wore his overcoat and regulation school cap, and carried his textbooks and notebooks bound in a single leather strap. The day was raw, and there were traces of snow on the ground. Andreyusha did not turn up at school. He had chosen for once, literally for once, to play truant and visit a friend in Lukyanovka, an outlying district of Kiev on the other side of the river. Two school children saw him before he crossed the bridge. He was not reported as having been seen along whatever route he followed thereafter, whether through the heart of the city or along the right bank and up the suburban slopes. Well, maybe that's because nobody came forward. The numbers of persons who saw him that morning in Lukyanovka was in dispute at the trial 2.5 years later. But among them were, as admitted by both sides, two lamplighters, husband and wife, and Andreyusha's friend Zhenya Cheberyak. What happened to Andreyusha that morning? His friend? Never mind. You'd have to learn more about this. What happened to Andreyusha that morning was to become a matter of world concern. The boy was found dead, a ghastly sight, 8 days later, Sunday, March 20th, in one of the Lukyanovka caves, about equidistant from Zhenya Cheberyak's home and the brickworks where the Jew, Mendel Bilas, was employed and lived with his family. The body, half-dressed, had 47 wounds, major and minor, about the head, neck, and torso, and all had been made with a stabbing instrument. It had lost the greater part of its blood. The corpse, that is, the corpse of the boy. The shirt and drawers and the sock on one foot were caked in dried blood. Nearby lay Andreyusha's cap, jacket, and belt, and the other sock, similarly caked. In the jacket pocket was found a blood-stained rag, part of a pillowcase. On analysis, the rag showed traces of semen. The notebooks, rolled into a cylinder, lay on a ledge above the head of the partly recumbent corpse, and since Andreyusha's name was written in each of them, it was inferred that the murderers, it will always be assumed that there was more than one, had been either unbelievably careless or else unconcerned with concealing the identity of the victim. Or maybe they simply could not read. The missing overcoat and trousers and the textbooks, those were never found. The body was removed to the morgue and an autopsy was performed by City Coroner Karpinsky on Tuesday, March 22nd. His report was handled in March 24th and appeared in the newspapers the following morning. A second autopsy was performed by Professor Oblonsky and anatomist Tufanov, both of Kiev University, on March 26th, the body then being in an advanced state of decay. So in other words, this poor kid is already starting to leak, the bodily fats. He's starting to puff up with gas and stuff. Andreyusha was buried on Sunday, March 27th, with a substitute vertex cranii. They basically replaced the top of his head because that had to be removed to take a look at his brain during the two autopsies. So Probably could have been a closed casket funeral, but his family was poor. Mimeographed leaflets were distributed along the funeral route and the graveside. They read, Orthodox Christians. The Zhids have tortured Andriusha Yushinsky to death. Every year before their Passover feast, they torture to death several dozens of Christian children in order to get their blood to mix with their matzos. They do this in commemoration of our Savior, whom they tortured to death on the cross. The official doctors found that before the Zhids tortured Yushinsky, they stripped him naked and tied him up, stabbing him in the principal veins so as to get as much blood as possible. They pierced him in 50 places. Russians, if your children are dear to you, beat up the Zhids. Beat them up until there is not a single Zhid left in Russia. Have pity on your own children. Avenge this unhappy martyr. It is time. It is time. And that was a reading from Blood Accusation by the Jewish author Maurice Samuel. I won't get into every nitpicking detail. I'll leave it to you guys to get the book and to make your own counter arguments against the attempted debunking job that this Jew attempts to do surrounding the ritual blood murder of this white Slavic Christian child. So, draw your own conclusions, people. It's just here for your consideration. Thank you and have a nice day.